Gen Z, I want to talk directly to you today because depending on who you listen to, you're either lazy and entitled or you're facing impossible odds. You're told you don't want to work and you're told you'll never own a home. I don't buy any of that. Because here's the reality. College costs a fortune. Rent is ridiculous. AI might take your job. Entry-level positions want 3 years of experience, and somehow you're supposed to have that experience before somebody even gives you the job to begin with. And then somebody my age comes along and says, well, when I was your age, I worked hard and bought a house. You just need to stop complaining. I don't buy that argument. Some things were easier for my generation. Let's be honest. I'm going to show you the numbers today. Here's the thing I don't want you to buy. I don't think you're facing impossible odds at all. Not even close. In fact, you have advantages at your fingertips that my generation couldn't have imagined at 22 years old. So today, we're going to do two things. We're going to tell you the truth about what you're up against, and then I'm going to show you how to kick the door down anyway. Can Gen Z really make it? Absolutely. But you are going to need a different playbook. And that's exactly what I want to do today and create a path forward together. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk practical wisdom for leadership and life. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and I've learned that leadership is about how we show up for people, how we navigate change, and how we continue growing. Right now, on today's episode, can Gen Z really make it? And that answer is absolutely yes. You are listening to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live with purpose. I'm your host, Andy Zook. And as I always promise, no fluff, no empty motivation, just actionable steps that you can learn and put into practice today to become better at what you do. And I don't want Gen Z to become the first generation that comes along convinced that the game was rigged against them, and then they just stop playing it. Listen, I'm 57 years old, and I'm not going to pretend I entered adulthood under the same conditions you did. But I've also had more than 3 decades to watch careers succeed, fail, stall, explode, recover, and even reinvent themselves. And there are things I wish somebody had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me when I was 22. Is the deck stacked against Gen Z in some legitimate ways? Yes, it is. Housing, student debt, entry-level employment, AI disruption, wage-to-cost ratios. There are a lot of challenges they are facing. Someone born around 1970, close to the time I was born, probably did have a better structural opportunity to achieve the classic middle class path. You know, you get the job, you get the house, you've got appreciating assets, you've got your pension, you've got your 401k, and upward mobility. But someone born around 2000 to 2005 arguably has more ways to become economically extraordinary. There's just a harder path to being comfortably ordinary. And that distinction is pretty profound. Let's explain it this way. Someone born in 1970 turned 20 in 1990, and then 30 in 2000. They entered adulthood before the huge run-up in housing prices of the past couple of decades, before today's levels of student debt, and during a period where the late 1990s economy was exceptionally strong. There's a lot of research that notes that people born in the late 60s and early 70s benefited statistically because their age 30 earnings arrived during that boom. So for example, with education, I grew up in Maryland. So the 1988-89 academic year at the University of Maryland was $1,900 in tuition and required fees. Using CPI inflation, prices today are roughly 2.8 times their 1988 level. So the 1900 in 1988 equals $5,300 in 2026 dollars. If the University of Maryland tuition had merely kept its place with ordinary inflation, that 1900 price would be around $5,375 today. Today's tuition is almost $13,000. Today's Maryland University student is paying 2.4 times the inflation-adjusted price that a Maryland student paid in 1988. So when somebody says, yeah, but $2,000 was a lot more money back then, they're absolutely right. But even after accounting for that, today's student is paying more than twice as much. Let's give another example. In 1985, the median home sold for about $86,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $259,000 in 2025 dollars. But the actual median price in 2025 for homes is $450,000 to $500,000. So even after accounting for that inflation, homes are dramatically more expensive for today's buyers. So when a 25-year-old says, hey, I can't buy the house my parents bought at my age, the math says they're right. But that doesn't mean they'll never own a home. It just means the strategy has to change. Let's talk about the advantages and how they can use them. Number one, you have almost unlimited access to knowledge. This is mind-blowing for people of my generation, and it's something I don't think we could ever take for granted, and I hope you don't, because when I was young, if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to books, libraries, teachers, maybe a class somewhere. Today, you can learn almost anything from your phone in your hand right now. You can learn investing, coding, public speaking, marketing, video production, languages, leadership, sales, psychology, you name it. And now AI has taken that even further. You essentially have access to on-demand tutoring, researching, editing, coaching, and a brainstorming partner. That is incredible. The advantage isn't just having more information, it's being able to learn faster than almost any generation before you. I really want you to think about that. That is incredible. Like I said, when I was a kid and we had to write a paper for school, we had to go to the library and find a bunch of books and put all that information together without plagiarizing it and so forth. That was the only way to do it. And the amount of misinformation too back then, I always say this to my family, is you just hoped your teacher really knew what they were talking about, because sometimes they gave you false information. There was no way to fact check it. It was the teacher, you believed them. The question for you is whether you're going to use that technology to consume more or become more capable. I want you to think about that, because having this at your fingertips is amazing. The other second advantage that you guys have as Gen Z is you don't need nearly as many gatekeepers. This one is enormous. So 30 or 40 years ago, if you wanted an audience, you usually needed somebody else's permission, right? A publisher, a record company, a television station, a newspaper, a corporate hiring manager. Today, you can build a YouTube channel, start a podcast, publish your writing, sell artwork, launch a business online, create a course, freelance, consult, and build a professional presence. Does that mean success is easy? No, of course not. But the gate is wide open for you. You can show people what you can do before anybody gives you a title, a promotion, or even an opportunity. Don't just build a resume, start building evidence. That is incredible. Another great advantage is you're entering adulthood at the beginning of an enormous technological transformation. Probably one of the biggest that I'll see in my life. AI is scary. I understand that. Some jobs will change. Some jobs will just disappear altogether. But every major technological shift also creates new industries, new companies, new roles, and entirely new ways of working. Gen Z has an incredible opportunity to become the generation that learns how to work with AI instead of simply fearing what it might do to them. What I'm saying is learn how to use it. Learn where it fails. Learn how your human skills, your judgment, your creativity, your communication, your relationships can complement the technology. Even more than that, your leadership. Because the person who understands both human beings and technology is going to be incredibly valuable. All right, another thing is that you have an asset older generations would love to buy from you. You have time. If you're 22 or 25 years old, you may look at someone who's 55 with a large retirement account and think they're miles ahead of you, but you possess something they can't purchase no matter where they are in their life. 40 years. That means you've got 40 years to invest, 40 years to compound, 40 years to build skills, 40 years to change careers, 40 years to make mistakes, recover, learn, and try again. You don't need to become wealthy tomorrow. You just need to start building wealth today. Small amounts invested consistently over decades can become very meaningful amounts of money. If I had known what I knew about money at 45 and 50, if I had known that at 25, I would have retired probably 10 years before. Your greatest financial advantage right now may not be how much money you have, it's how much time you have. Another thing I want you to think about is your generation can learn from everybody that went before you. And this might actually be another one of your biggest advantages. You don't have to make every mistake yourself. There are boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials that have already messed up plenty of things for you. So we can tell you, start investing earlier, start taking care of your health sooner. Build relationships before you need them. Don't let lifestyle inflation swallow every raise. Don't stay in a miserable job for 20 years because you're afraid to move. Learn how to communicate. Protect your reputation. Tell people you love them. And don't wait until you're 50 to start asking yourself, what kind of life do I really want? Gen Z has access not only to more information than any other generation before it, but you have access to generations of accumulated experience. Think about that. Use it. Learn from our victories. Learn from our mistakes. Take what works, discard what doesn't, and build something even better. All right, so now we're going to go through 5 steps that I really want you to clue in and hear, because here's what I know what works, because this is how you are going to make it. Number 1, become ridiculously employable. Yeah, this is bigger than getting a degree. If your resume disappeared tomorrow, what can you actually do? What problems can you solve? What can you build? What can you sell? What can you communicate? What technology could you use? What evidence exists that you're good? Because the future of work may care less about what you studied and increasingly care about what you actually can produce. I would tell a 22-year-old this: build a talent stack. Don't just be a marketing major like us. Become marketing plus AI plus video editing plus analytics plus public speaking and sales. Don't just become an accountant. Become an accounting, data visionary, AI, communication, business strategy boss. You don't necessarily have to be world class at one thing. Being unusually good at several complementary things can make you enormously valuable. Think of it this way. Our degree gets you into the conversation, but your capabilities keep you in the room. The college wage premium still exists. New York Fed research continues to find substantial economic returns to college overall. But the "I have a degree" speech isn't enough to differentiate you anymore. Number 2, I don't want you to wait for somebody to discover you. This needs to be in your wheelhouse. Networking, LinkedIn, internships, professional associations. Ask successful people for 20-minute conversations, volunteer for projects, build relationships with professors, managers, and executives, and then follow up. Because one of the traps Gen Z can fall into believing is, I applied for 137 jobs online. That's not a strategy. They're competing against hundreds of applicants filtering through software. A better strategy is, who knows I'm good, and who will say my name when I'm not in the room. That is your career capital. The third thing I want you to focus on is avoid the lifestyle trap. This is a big one because this might be the strongest economic section. A young person doesn't need to look wealthy. They need to become wealthy. I'd almost give them a rule. For your first 10 years, prioritize assets over appearances. Drive a Toyota, have roommates, buy the reasonable condo instead of stretching for the Instagram house. Don't finance furniture. Don't carry credit card balances. Don't spend your raises before you receive them. And don't confuse Klarna with affordability. Invest automatically. The Fed reports that buy now, pay later use reached 16% of adults in 2025, and some users incurred overdraft or insufficient funds because they couldn't make those payments. Consumer culture is incredibly good at convincing young adults that wealth should be displayed instead of accumulated, and that's poison when you're 25. Trust me, I've been there. I'm telling you the truth. Live small now so you can live bigger later. The fourth thing I want you to focus on is start investing embarrassingly early. This is where Gen Z has one extraordinary advantage over everyone else. My generation's Warren Buffett, everybody. Yeah, time. A 23-year-old doesn't need enormous amounts of money. They need consistency. Start building that 401k early. I didn't until I was 29 or 30. That means I missed out on almost 10 years. Put together a Roth IRA. Start getting into broad, diversified investments. Build a strong emergency savings, and then don't mess with it. I'm going to say this: the greatest financial asset most 23-year-olds possess isn't money. It's, like I said, 40 years. That is incredibly hopeful. Their housing situation may be harder. Their tuition may have been higher. Their entry-level labor market may be difficult, but they still possess decades of compounding that a 50-year-old would still pay a fortune to get back. So that's the fourth thing I would do. And here's number 5. And if you get anything out of this episode, it is this: become someone organizations hate losing. Yep, I'll never forget, I had an employee from another department sit down, and they sat there for 20 minutes explaining about how they couldn't get ahead like all the other generations could, and they kept throwing out all of these excuses about how come they couldn't make it. And so then I asked her, then how do you explain Robert? We had another guy in the department named Robert who just got promoted, was making more money, was learning new skills to get the next promotion after that. He was on a very solidified track to get ahead. What was Robert doing differently with the same opportunities available right there? Become someone organizations hate losing. All you got to do is show up. That's all Robert did. Learn, follow through, communicate, solve problems. Don't require constant supervision. Be easy to work with. Ask for feedback. Take the challenging assignments. Develop judgment. Help coworkers. And really start to learn to understand the business, not just merely make it your job. You don't have to beat the entire generation. You just have to separate yourself from average. That's important because generational statistics can make people feel helpless. I don't want that for you. If recent graduate unemployment is 5.6, that doesn't mean you personally have a 5.6 destiny. Your actions change your probability. And I'd actually challenge some of the things your workers hear online. There's a lot of things people say like companies don't care about you. Okay, maybe that's true, but become valuable anyway. Or you'll never afford a house. Okay, maybe housing will remain difficult, but save and invest anyway. Parts of the system may seem absolutely unfair, but surrendering your agency doesn't make it more fair. Can Gen Z really make it? Absolutely, they can and will, but I don't think the path looks exactly like the one my generation followed. You may change companies more often. You may have to develop skills faster. You may have to live below your means longer before buying a home. You may have to create opportunities instead of waiting for a traditional corporate ladder. And yes, that is unfair in some ways, but here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to turn a difficult economy into a limiting belief about your life. Learn faster, build relationships, become incredibly useful, keep your expenses under control, invest early, and take intelligent risks. But more importantly, build a reputation that follows you from opportunity to opportunity. If you're 23 and listening to me today, imagine yourself at 33. 10 years from now is coming, whether you prepare for it or not. You could arrive there with 10 years of excuses, or you could arrive there with 10 years of skills, 10 years of consumer debt, or 10 years of investments, 10 years of doom scrolling, or 10 years of relationships, experience, and reputation. You don't need to fix your entire life today, but you do need to decide what direction you're walking in. The world may not hand Gen Z the same economic ladder previous generations climbed, so build your own ladder. All right? You can do it. Let's quickly recap. These are the 5 things that I want you to focus on. Number 1, become ridiculously employable. Get experience under your belt and talent stack. Number 2, don't wait for somebody to discover you. Get out there and network and let people see what you're capable of. The third thing, avoid the lifestyle trap. Don't spend more than you make. And it's better to cut back now and have more later. The fourth thing is start investing embarrassingly early. The earlier the start, the better off you're going to be. It's going to be easier to get that house you want and be easier to retire. Number 5, become someone organizations hate losing. Don't worry about being good. Be in that top percentage of great. All right, so that is today's episode. And if this podcast made a positive impact on you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Please share this with someone Gen Z today. And I would truly appreciate a quick rating or review on whatever platform you hear me on. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next on the Leading Life Podcast. I'm Andy Zook. Remember, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. But most importantly, I want you to go out today and be the hero in somebody's story. All right, can't wait to talk to you on the next episode. Have an awesome rest of your day. Take care. Bye.